Thank you, Crystal. In the absence of strict government oversight, we are forced to rely on corporate self regulation. Unfortunately, tech companies that develop algorithms are actively evading this responsibility. A comprehensive study published by researchers at Cornell University examined this algorithm, auditing frameworks of the tech industry. They surveyed 50 of the leading tech companies in the world. The study found that fewer than 20% had actually published verifiable model cards for their systems. Companies refuse to disclose this basic information, meaning that external researchers, journalists, and citizens could not independently monitor and evaluate these algorithms. This indicates that corporate self regulation mechanisms are failing completely. But what exactly is a model card and why is it so important? To understand transparency, we have to look at what it actually looks like in practice. A model card is essentially a standardized nutritional label for an algorithm. It is a public document that records an algorithm's performance, limitations, and potential biases. If a company releases a facial recognition AI, their model card should publicly state, quote, this algorithm was trained on 70% lighter skinned faces and therefore has a higher error rate when analyzing darker skinned faces, end quote. It must explicitly state the intended use and, more importantly, the out of scope uses. Without a model card, AI is just a black box. With a model card, institutions know exactly what the tool's limitations are before they deploy it. But since corporations will not release these willingly, what can we do? Even with both top level regulation and corporate self regulation failing, ordinary citizens are not powerless. We can take concrete action to defend our digital rights. To do so, there's a few steps. First, we can actively support and fund independent algorithm auditing organizations like ProPublica or the Algorithmic Justice League, who do the investigative work the government currently is not doing. Second, computer science students and developers can utilize open source fairness testing toolkits to evaluate their own code before it ever reaches the market. Third, we must express our demand for accountability legislation to our elected representatives. Through these means, we can transform public pressure into tangible policy momentum. But we must also look at how this impacts us right here in higher education. Universities are increasingly adopting predictive algorithms to determine student admissions and distributive financial aid. As a campus community, we must demand that our own university administration publishes model cards for any predictive software they use to assess the student body. Finally, to provide a reference for large-scale solutions, let's examine two relatively mature international governance models that we can adopt here in the US. First, we have the Canadian government. The Canadian government utilizes an algorithm impact assessment framework. Before any Canadian federal agency can deploy an automated decision system, they must complete a public, peer reviewed risk assessment. This forces the government to identify bias before the algorithm goes live, rather than waiting for citizens to be harmed. Similarly, the Monetary Authority of Singapore is actively pushing a system that institutionalizes information disclosure for financial AI. These models offer successful approaches that effectively incentivize developers to prioritize fairness from the very beginning of the design process. With these international frameworks proving that transparent, accountable AI is entirely achievable, let's review the core takeaways of this presentation. In summary, algorithmic transparency is fundamental to being fair and just in this digital age. Today, we've evaluated the extensive reach of automated systems, the technical flaws that breed bias, and the tangible harms they create in both employment and law enforcement. We've explored the current legislative loopholes, the failure of corporate secrecy, the practical steps we can take for citizen advocacy, and the proactive international frameworks we can model. Algorithmic bias is a complex issue resulting from a combination of technical flaws, regulatory gaps, and corporate negligence. There are no shortcuts to solving this. We must rely on combined efforts of sound legislation, responsible businesses, and active citizens. The code that dictates our future shouldn't be closed by a black box. By demanding algorithmic transparency today, we can ensure that the invisible systems of tomorrow are programmed to serve justice rather than replicating our biases. Thank you.